All your other friends are busy making them babies.
I saw you sneaking in your cup there, sir.
That was that subliminal enough?
That was subliminal. Mojo Monday, Rick Hale. How are you?
I'm good. Georgia won the national championship. I'll be good for another 11 and a half months.
There you go. All right. So 2022, we're kicking this off. We started with the 5 love languages, right? And we kind of jokingly said, yeah, probably can't really talk about physical touch in business. So we're going to call it the 4 love languages of business, right? And, you know, we've done words of affirmation, acts of service, and now we're going to tackle quality time. And quality time, well, let me just kick the ball to you, Rick. What's quality time to you?
I think it's time invested with somebody who has a disproportionate interest in you, who shows up unselfishly and genuinely interested.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of interesting because it's about relationships. All these love languages are about relationships, right? And we're going to talk kind of towards the end of this conversation around how this really relates to business. Yet quality time's a bigger thing. It's just having relationships with people. And you can't really have a relationship with people if you don't build one or grow one or just spend time in the trench in the relationship, right?
It's definitely not a one and done. It's not like you just express gratitude or interest or that disproportionate interest piece once and expect it to have shelf life forever. There is shelf life, though. I mean, kind of the law of reciprocity and contribution says when you invest in someone, you buy goodwill and margin in their heart and mind. But that has, you know, again, that expires. And so you've got to renew and re-energize and reinvest to make it really sustainable.
100%. And, you know, we talk about being present. And I kind of jokingly think back to like grade school when the teacher would call my name out and I'd say, present. I'm not sure I was really there, but I would always say present. This is about really being present, right? Like face to face in the conversation.
That's it. It's about being present and being honestly, sincerely connected to the outcome. And again, that disproportionate interest piece is important because it shows, you know, it shows generosity of heart and mind. And we live in a busy world. There's just no way around it. And we're all attempting to be efficient with our time and effort. But, you know, quality time says you put that urgency to be efficient on a shelf, and the urgency to be connected and present becomes the dominant thought.
Yeah. You know, there's we usually kind of talk about the word quality in contrast to quantity. And there's a lot of different meanings, those contrasts, but this is not quantity time. This is quality time. And I'd actually just kind of say, if we were going to put a bracket around quality time, it's a conversation. What does that conversation look like that was a quality time conversation?
I mean, I think it starts with understanding someone else's needs and wants, which requires you simply to either maybe social snooping, maybe it's Facebook, maybe Instagram, maybe it's, you know, LinkedIn, and confirm where they are and where they're going, and maybe some recent accomplishments, some, you know, if they express recent challenges, family experiences. It's just about coming from a place of, again, sincere, you know, unattached to the outcome, totally attached to being present. And I think most people, if you come from that space, will share an opportunity for you to express that, you know, disproportionate interest.
Yeah. What's that look like? Like you and I've talked about, like, how do you know somebody wants the quality time, or how do you engage people that way?
Well, I mean, for starters, if it's a first experience and a first meeting, I think you kind of have to just come in with an open mind and a blank slate without expectation. If you've had experiences with them before, you know, the people that are, you know, high D's, all about efficiency and checking boxes. In that case, you want to find a way to connect with them in the most meaningful way, but also respectful of what they want and their natural tendency. But if they're high I's, you don't have to. It's not hard to figure it out because they want to express, they like connecting. SCs, again, you probably want to be a little more cautious and, you know, in the expectation department, but a question unasked is a question unanswered. I'll share that. If you don't ask, you may never know. And if you're guessing, you may miss. So simply reaching out and expressing concern and genuine interest is the first step. The second part is I think you can bring an arsenal of opportunity simply by paying attention to their tendencies and then maybe how they're projecting in social media.
Sure. You know, you and I both met people over the years that when you're in conversation with them, you feel like you're the most important person in the world. You're the only person in the room. You're the only person that exists. I think that's a special gift. And obviously that would be the MBA or the PhD version of what we're talking about here. And I don't think they just naturally do that. I think that was a very purposeful skill set, I would say, that they developed over time. No?
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. And it doesn't come natural. I think I don't know. Look, the typical personality type in real estate, and there's all personality types have potential to succeed, but the common theme seems to be D's and I's and I's and D's. And if I asked a crowd of 35 top agents, you know, are you highly attentive to detail and highly focused and highly into the minutia and always cognizant of the little things, I would get very few hands. If I said, do you feel like some days you border on ADD or some version of hyperactivity or hyper, you know, the ability to multitask is such a gift, but it's also a bit of a curse when it comes to this conversation. If I said, how many of you have some version of yeah, I bet
Everybody. Yeah.
75% would raise their hand. So back to the point, it's not natural. So I think you have to prescribe an experience or an environment or get your head right on it to make sure that your natural style doesn't interfere with being that most present person inside of you.
Yeah.
And if that, you know, and there's a few ways to do it. And I know, you know, what do you think? How do you?
Well, I think first, Rick's got to be eye contact.
Got to be.
I mean, nothing says I'm more present than eye contact. If I'm in a conversation with somebody and I'm looking at my phone or across the room or any kind of distraction, if I'm not making eye contact, I'm not there, right? And
Yeah.
I find it funny on Zoom because a lot of times when I'm looking at you, it doesn't look like I'm making eye contact, but I am, right? But in person, it's very easy to tell if somebody's making eye contact or not.
Well, you bring up a good point in today's world, Brett, where virtual meetings are very common, even one-on-one virtual meetings. And right now I have a couple of notes because I knew where we were going. I wanted to make sure that, you know, I didn't miss anything that I feel important that you and I have shared. But at the end of the day, if I look down at my notes, I'm not looking at you. And now you're left to assume what my interest or my motivation is. You're left to assume, and that's risky business. And so even so, if you're going to set up a Zoom environment, make sure that you're, you know, the microphone and the camera catch you at the best possible, in the best possible way, and then position the picture in a way that if I'm looking at you, I'm at least proximal to the camera. So there's no doubt that I'm in the moment and I'm connected to you. So digital kind of changed that. But I'll ask this question of you: how much eye contact is too much?
Wow. You didn't ask me this question ahead of time, but I mean,
That's the beauty of live
I don't know
TV.
that there is too much. I mean, I think you could make somebody uncomfortable with too much eye contact, but I think overall, I'm not sure there is too much per se when you're in a relationship conversation. Outside of that conversation, totally different ballgame, but inside the conversation, I don't think you could have too much eye contact.
I'd agree wholeheartedly. In fact, I read a book once called The Power of Charm. It's by Alan Arden. And the cool thing about The Power of Charm is it's not about being a snazzy dresser or charming in the sense that you're witty or funny or engaging. It's really about being interested, not interesting.
Yep.
And he speaks to that eye contact question. He says, how much? And he goes, there is no limit until it gets weird. But I get where you were going. Like, if you don't want to stare someone down uncomfortably, but at the same time, he even used this analogy: pretend that you're sunbathing their face, your eyeballs are the sun, and you're casting a beautiful glow upon them. And I thought, man, that's a neat way to, you know, to just project good energy. And the other thing is, you know, the word wait, you hear that, you know, that acronym, you know, why am I talking? Anytime if you do less talking, you do more connecting.
100%. So let's move this conversation to business for a second.
Sure.
So we teach a lot around, our industry is a relationship-based industry, and the power of relationships is really what kind of is the foundation that causes a real estate business to thrive. But in the beginning, you got to build relationships. And then over time, you got to maintain them. And Rick, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you can't build a relationship without quality time. And it's be real hard to maintain relationships without quality time too. What do you say?
Absolutely. I mean, we've all got friends from college and friends, early, that you could call them right now and go grab a beer or a glass of wine. And within minutes, you're fully caught up and feel like you didn't miss a beat. But I don't think that's common across the board when it comes to an entire database of people that are your, army of advocates. And I think you just have to be strategic. Remember, I mentioned earlier that I think relational energy has a shelf life and does expire if you don't renew and re-energize. So I think back to your point about it becoming a business endeavor, how strategic are you? And are you speaking the love language that they listen to most intimately and are most connected to, that's rewarding for them, that makes disproportionate interest an obvious, goal on your part?
100%. And it is a conversation. I'd like to remind people, it's not a quantity number of minutes, or I need to spend so many lunches a year. It's how many conversations have I had? And the cool thing is, you can do some of this in a group setting. So if there are holiday parties or getting together for sports games, or it doesn't necessarily have to be one-on-one. However, somebody that their quality time love language or business language is quality time, probably should be one-on-one with them.
Agreed. But ultimately, if they feel special and heard and honored even in a group setting, I think you win. And it is definitely an efficiency tool to stage that, but then don't negate the opportunity to have a one-on-one. And back to your point, quality implies it's not about quantity. And it could be 10 minutes of quality, outreach and connectivity. And you notice something on Facebook that looked like a challenge or an opportunity, and call and express sincere, either remorse or sadness, or on the positive side, excitement and exuberance for something they've accomplished. And that enough, and so what are you going to do now? So how does it look going forward? And how can I support you? A few key questions. And that's, I think, when it comes to expressing that disproportionate interest, asking really good questions is vital, and relevance is the important piece of that puzzle.
There you go. And at the end of the day, a cup of coffee, adult beverage, it's not super expensive. It's not break the bank. You don't have to go to 5-star dinners with everybody to build relationships, right?
Absolutely not. It's again about expressing interest.
100%, and being present and full and undivided attention. Rick, Hale, you've always made me feel that way, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you. We have, you've expressed a disproportionate interest. I have to recover quickly and tell you it's ditto. And you just, it's kind of funny though. You don't want it to seem or feel hokey. And I know, given the content of today's conversation, Brett, that could easily have been perceived, you're just throwing, a softball up in the air for the sake of illustration. But because we have a history and an experiential path that supports it, I would always take that to heart. And so I'm grateful for your sincerity and also the kindness that you expressed.
Mojo Monday, sir.
Mojo Monday, people, go express kindness and care for people.
Put some sugar in my water, cause we making Minute Maid.